Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Doujinshi, and welcome back to another episode of Hentai Reviews, the only series with so much class we forget to put the CL in. Thick. So, today we're going to be talking about a certain series, well, not necessarily a series, essentially just a singular episode. There may have been no popular request for it, there may have been straight up no asking for this whatsoever, but that being said, I am a man of culture, and my own damn culture I think is better than yours, so let's go ahead and get into my prideful recount of something that I found when I was 12 and I've never let go of. You see, today we're going to be talking about a little ditty by the name of Love is the Number of Keys. Now, if that name doesn't sound familiar to you, sounds about fair. Most of us didn't go on the sorts of websites I did when I was a kid. That being said, many, and I mean many of these clips had pretty much gone out throughout most compilations when you were a kid. If you decide to look up any sort of cosplay, I don't want to say it too early into the video, spicy anime, you're essentially going to find clips of this. Because they gotta bring up some of that 80s nostalgia every once in a while. And really, I'd recommend this one a little bit over the rest. Not necessarily for how good it is, but necessarily for how long it goes on and how many, essentially, different ways vanilla can be used. And stretching the vanilla like you stretch a young twink's prostate. Very liberally. So, let's go ahead and get into this. Today we're going to be talking about Love is the Number of Keys, done by our friends over at MS Pictures with a total of 7 different categories, notable of which are naughty nurses and all the different types of outfits they can wear. They're big booba mommy milkies. God damn it, my friend made that joke 1,000 fucking times and now I can't stop saying it. Thanks, it's that and the fucking Mets meme that are stuck in my head for the rest of the day now. Not the rest of the day, the rest of the fucking week. Thank you, Marcus. And finally, good old-fashioned vanilla. And if you say you don't like vanilla, then you are going to be put to the melta, the bolta, and the flamer, because someone just announced heresy. That being said, this little ditty runs at about 28 minutes and 55 seconds, and I could safely say this is not necessarily a perfect classic, but this is a classic that you watch if you are a fan of the medium. So, let's go ahead and get into this. Starting off with the main character, June, where I'm just gonna go ahead and announce him as is, because starting off, you see a lot of this man throughout most of what goes on in this series. Essentially, not series, episode. Essentially, scene number 1 is the literal first second of this entire thing happening, because it starts at, let's go ahead and get it, scene number 1 starts at 000 and goes to 0:35 seconds. Long enough to where I'd count it, but most of it is just teetering on it, because these are all essentially clips that are going to happen throughout the series, or throughout the episode itself. Essentially like a slideshow of just stuff that's happening later. So, afterwards, we get a little bit of an introduction to our boy June, which is spelled J-Y-U-N, which I'm not going to be pronouncing it June, because that's dumb and I'm white. I think I've said this enough times. I'm white, pronouncing names that would be considered weird in my culture of people named John and Brandon. It's a little tough. So, we meet our boy June coming home from school, essentially going to his apartment complex where he does in fact live, where he also in fact works as the assistant to the manager of the entire apartment complex. You see, he goes and knocks on the front door of the place and says, mail delivery, actually, sort of. And after he knocks on the door, he meets his manager and boss. Which feels weird if it wouldn't be in this context. But as he knocks on the door, finds out she is not shy about nudity, essentially just showing up, panties and stockings. Go to town. And she essentially gets the whole, rundown with how he's going. It's pretty much just showing off the assets. After talking to her, he's essentially given a task where he can just you know, kind of go and deliver a package, typical fetch quest style, and goes and delivers essentially a letter to a resident. And after he walks in to say mail delivery, he finds somebody else getting a package of a different kind. Yeah, there's a tenant living there who's getting it good for money. Which is actually the start of scene number 2. Scene number 2 starting at 4 minutes and 10 seconds. It goes all the way to 5 minutes and 50 seconds. Relatively short, kind of a spying sort of thing, voyeuristic if I may. And he comes back and reports what he saw, only for the manager to be 100% aware of what's going on. You see, part of the deal of people living in this place is that they can use it as a hub to make more money by essentially offering sex work, which I don't make a lot of statements on this, and I'm pretty sure I've never made a statement in my life, but I 100% support sex work because technically this is sex work as well. And if I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to be starting an OnlyFans, so you damn well know I'm going to be starting that job. So, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, everybody. We're at 169, I think the last time we checked. We were at 170. I don't know if that was an unsubscribe or like YouTube did its bullshit. Regardless, if you left, have a nice day. If you just got taken back, please, we need you. We want more people. I want to start an OnlyFans, damn it. And I need a good reason. So, after getting the explanation of a lifetime about, hey, people bone for money in this entire apartment complex. And yes, everyone does it. He works there. So, he's given a little bit of a treatment in that regard as she gives him a little bit of an example, which leads into scene number 3. Scene number 3 starts at 8 minutes and 15 seconds and goes all the way to 9 minutes and 20 seconds. Not necessarily the longest of the group, but, you know, probably the second shortest. In which case, after the entire thing, he, you know, gets his own little thing going and decides to head off. He goes to school and he comes back later with most of his friends, and well, not back to the apartment. He goes to a restaurant that I don't know if they were trying to do an old 50s style thing going on, because okay, there's girls serving hot food and taking orders while in roller skates, and my first thought is, you know, that's like setting off fireworks while being super drunk. Like, sure, people do it, but I would very much advise against it. Like, that seems like probably one of the most dangerous things that you can do. The only thing that you would also make that dangerous is you gotta be singing the whole time you do it, because now you're concernedly weirding out the entire scenario, and you just make it more dangerous. But after him and his friends are like, check out the hot one, and they're all like, yeah, I checked out the hot one, and the main dude's like, yeah, I'm checking out the hot one. He goes back to his apartment complex and is actually told to deliver a package to one of the new residents. Knocks on the door. Hot one's waiting for him because, yeah, she works there. Yeah, she works at her apartment complex as well. He gets invited in and finds out that she does in fact collect uniforms from the different jobs she has, and she has a ton of them. Girl be getting fired on the daily, but she takes that uniform with her. Why? Because nothing is more sexy than a minimum wage job uniform. There's a reason porn stars say, oh my god, I went to McDonald's and he handed me a half-pounder. People in their thumbnails. Shame. I'm gonna make this thumbnail really weird now. That being said, that leads into... Did I already say the scene? Nah, I'm going to do it again just in case. That leads into scene number 4. Scene number 4 starts between them as she gets a little bit more clothed and starts at 13 minutes and 40 seconds and goes all the way to 16 minutes and 30 seconds. Yes, I have the times written on the side because I don't want to keep pulling up the book every time I do stuff. Because I have class. Essentially, they get to talking, and this is probably my favorite scene of the entire thing overall. Like, this would probably be my favorite part of it. That being said, because cosplay is hot, and if you can pull off cosplay, you are a whole lot hotter because, first off, you're an insanely creative person. Second, if you look good dressed up as femboy Link, then... Can you get a friend who can dress like Raven and make my 13-year-old... fantasies just go nuts? So, after that, he essentially is leaving back from... I don't know if he was coming from school or he was leaving school. Are you coming or going? No, I'm kidding. Essentially, he's just on the train, and he's leaving somewhere, and something happens where people brush and push up against him, and then a lady who stands up and then backs up into him ends up stomping down on the middle of his foot with her fucking heels, and dear God, the thought of it sounds painful. The visual, not necessarily the worst, but damn, I hate visualizing it. You see, he ends up going to the hospital where he meets a nurse and a doctor. The doctor leaves to go get some things, but calls the nurse alongside her after realizing that, he's fine, there's nothing really wrong with him. But after they lead in, there's a little bit of a BDSM relationship that's definitely going on here, and I can certainly say that there is so much tension in the room at all times. Don't know why they'd get turned on when there's people in constant pain, but hey, I don't like the Dark Eldar anyway. So, later on, he goes back to his place after finding out that he's okay, and he's told to do the exact same thing he's done twice already, which is deliver some correspondence to a person who lives in that building. After knocking on the door, he finds out, in fact, that this newly met hot girl and her friend live in this building as well as new tenants. To which case, they decide to give him an impromptu prostate exam. In which case, scene number 5 starts. Scene number 5 running from 22 minutes and 0 seconds to 25 minutes and 10 seconds. Probably the longest running one of the entire bit so far, and not necessarily the best, but yeah, I'm gonna keep my opinions on this one to myself. Thank God for rubber gloves and lube. So, afterwards, he essentially comes back feeling different as they shaved him for some reason. I have no clue why, but you're supposed to shave somebody before an operation so that things are clean when you sew them back together, but shaving them after seems like you're covering your bases to make sure nobody got hurt. But it's fine. After he comes back, he essentially realizes that he has a little bit of feelings for his manager because she's a pretty kind person and she's pretty cool overall. So, he ends up trying to say something, but she cuts him off as she starts stripping and they get into scene number 6. Scene number 6 runs from 25 minutes and 55 seconds to 26 minutes and 50 seconds. Minute and 5 seconds? Pretty short. In which case, the series episode, all of it ends right then and there, on a little bit of a note of this guy almost getting his crush asked out, and his job security may be wavering on this whole thing. So, that was Love is the Number of Keys. And fuck, I love nostalgia. So let's go ahead and get into the rating so we can actually, make this thing out to be what it is. You see, let's go ahead and start off with the animation. Animation is a solid 8. I'd say the animation has that 80s goodness, or that 80s to 90s goodness, where it's heavy line drawn with more animation with less detail, and just something special about that. You know that style. That's kind of like that Cowboy Bebop-esque, the Ghost in the Shell sort of thing, where you know that it's old, but you can't tell how old. But the animation is so solid that you feel like there was a lot more of a budget put into it, even though it's probably the exact same budget as most other things, but the animation is just that good because the pencil lining is so thick. So, 8 out of 10 when it comes to that. Now, on to characters and stories. Characters and stories, this is nothing but porn plots over and over and over. I walked in on 2 people after she was paid? Oh no, I delivered her mail and she wanted to sleep with me. She's a professional cosplayer and an addict? And then just goes nuts. I went in for a checkup, but they were the ones checking me out. There's so much porn plots going on in here that it's kind of goofy when you think about it, because nobody would run into this scenario in real life anyway. So small of a chance that it would happen. And then this dude runs into 4 different versions of it. all at the same time, not to mention a recurring one with his manager. I was asking her for a job, but she wasn't making my life harder. She was making something else harder. Like, it's so goofy and dumb, and it's so fun to go around with. And you can only admire it, really. So I'm gonna give it 7 out of 10 for the fact that it is goofy enough to have like 4 different porn plots in it as well. Not to mention, I kind of like the dynamic between the manager and the main guy of the whole thing. It's kind of like a hopeless puppy who really wants the cool girl. Well, it's kind of that dynamic. But let's go ahead and get into what we're all really here for. The plot. The plot? Solid. Not as good as I remembered. Probably the cosplayer was the best scene in the whole thing. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I feel like, well, I would say that some of the scenes in here were a little sparse for my liking. Like, maybe it's just because a lot of them, there's a lot, and most of them are pretty short. The longest only being about 3 minutes and 10 seconds, when the last few ones that I've done run for pretty much everything other than interspecies reviewers runs for well over 4 minutes apiece. And when you're spoiled for choice, you kind of look down on stuff like this. But then again, 6 different scenes running at not the longest, but also being decent in their own right. I'm going to give this a 7. The quantity outweighs the quality, and the one quality part that I think was exceptional above them all kind of middles it out to about a 7. So, overall, my scoring of this entire episode, and the series in whole technically, is a 7 out of 10. This is one that you would watch to get somebody into it, because there's kind of a lot, but also a little. And there's nothing like overtly weird going on. So, yeah. This is a nice one to start with, and this is a nice one to not necessarily end with, but you're definitely, if you like this and you want to dive further into the rabbit hole, you're probably going to be going into any of the other fetishes that are in here alongside vanilla, unless that's your, your main one. But I guess we can end it right there. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. It's been a while since I uploaded, and I'm starting to piss myself off when it comes to these sorts of things where I just don't upload for long periods of time, which is why I'm trying to set a schedule so now that I can actually upload. And also maybe higher quality now that I actually have like a decent paying job that can maybe in fact make this camera that I'm filming this whole thing with hopefully a decent fucking setup. But yeah, until then, we are currently at the road to 200 subscribers. I really want to hit it before the end of the year. I feel like that's not a lot to ask, but I also feel like when you're this low, asking for more is only gonna get harder. But what am I if not a hard man at heart and a hard man in the pants? So let's go ahead and strive for as much as I can. I am thankful for each and every one of you that is here. God damn, you are all good people for giving me a little bit of a chance. Thank you, and I really hope I get to do more of this next time. I'm gonna go ahead and film the next one because I am getting into that grind set. So, until next time, thank you everybody for being here, and remember, have a nice day, don't be a dick, there's too many of them, and wash your fucking hands. I've been the Doctor. Peace.